Recruiting is what's going to put Syracuse basketball back on the map.
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer, and thank you for making us your first listen of every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day, and we're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And on this week's Poll Friday, I asked you guys the question, when would you consider Syracuse basketball to be back? And I gave my answer off the jump. It's going to be recruiting, in my opinion. Now, I gave you guys four choices. Okay. And the four choices were, in order of how it actually ended up in voting wise, advancing to the Sweet 16, which got 45% of the votes. In second place was Elite 8 or better. In third place, and a close third place, was just making the tournament outright. And in fourth place, which is where I am ultimately, is a top 5 2025 high school recruiting class. Only about 6% of you guys agree with me that a top 5 2025 high school class will put Syracuse basketball back to where it needs to be. Now, it's easy to say that it's all about the results, and I understand it. I get that being that is a fair barometer to have, saying like, well, Syracuse basketball needs to be good on the court, right? I think making the tournament as a high seed would be fine, right? As to consider that they're back. A deep run would be even better, of course. But at the same time, I want to take you back to a really strong era of Syracuse basketball. And you guys are all familiar with it. And that's 2008 to 2014, where Syracuse every single season was a 4 seed or better in March Madness, okay? They were one of the premier teams in the country during that time period. But what were the actual results on the floor? Well, they had one Final Four, which was in 2013, actually as a 4 seed. And they made one Elite 8, and that was in 2012. So, yeah, of course, you want the results on the floor, but at the same time, Syracuse was one of the premier programs in the country, and they made one Final Four in that 6-year stretch where they were a 4 seed or better, and one time they made it to the Elite 8. So I don't think it's all about the results on the floor when it comes to Syracuse basketball being back, because the tournament, quite frankly, is super random. You can have a great regular season, a great conference tournament, but one off shooting night and your season is done for. Think about a team like Kentucky last year losing to Oakland, right? Nobody thought Kentucky would actually lose that game. You didn't actually think they would lose to Oakland, but Goki got hot for Oakland, and that was the end of it for Kentucky. So tournament results, to me, are pretty random, and it's hard to say like, oh, well, Syracuse has to make the Elite 8 for the program to be back. That's why ultimately I am in the boat of, if Syracuse gets a top 5 2025 recruiting class, which already features Sadiq White, that will put the program back on the map. And coming up, I'm going to explain further why I believe it is ultimately recruiting which is going to put this program back on the map. I love sports. I love them so much. I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games. And the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day all summer long. And speaking of Syracuse basketball and being back to glory, FanDuel has the Orange's odds of winning the national championship next year at plus 12,000. So those are long shot odds, but hey, you'd make a nice profit on top of being happy that Syracuse basketball wins the national championship if, of course, it happens. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. It's one thing to watch baseball on TV. That at times can get pretty boring, but going to a game in person is an awesome experience. And I'm looking forward to watching the Mets for the rest of the summer, and the way I'll watch them in person is by using Gametime. Gametime is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. All you have to do is go to Gametime and search the team you want to see of your choosing. It can be MLB or any league for that matter, and ticket options will appear right away. My favorite part is the all-in pricing feature. Toggling this feature shows the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Welcome back, everyone, into Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer. On this week's Poll Friday, I asked you guys the question, when would you consider Syracuse basketball to be back? And 45% of you guys said that it would be to advance to the Sweet 16. In second place, it was Elite 8 or better. In third place, it was just making the tournament outright. But I'm actually in the fourth place category, which is only about 6% of you guys out of over 400 that voted this week, that a top 5 2025 high school recruiting class puts Syracuse back to where it needs to be. All right. Now, of course, there is the condition of the players actually have to pan out. Like, they actually have to be good, not just their ranking is good. They actually have to be quality players at the Division I level. And not all of them are going to hit, but some of them will, right? You got Sadiq White. Obviously, he's already committed to Syracuse. Acaden Lewis is a target. He was just on campus on an unofficial visit. Tyler Jackson, they're probably going to make the final list for him, of course. Kiyan Anthony, we all know about him. London Jemison recently included Syracuse in his final list. Derek Dixon, so much more players in 2025. But I am confident in saying that this 2025 class is going to be really special. And assuming that it is special and it lands in the top 10, really the top 5, it would be the second straight year that Syracuse basketball has, at minimum, a top 10 recruiting class in the country. And you might be saying, how can it be the second straight year? Well, if you go on On3 and you check out where Syracuse basketball ranks in high school recruiting, Elijah Moore and Donnie Freeman, because of the quality of the recruit, particularly Donnie Freeman, Syracuse basketball is ranked 10th in the country in high school recruiting for this upcoming season. If you were to now have a top 5 class, and this one maybe doesn't have a prospect as good as Donnie Freeman, but more high-quality players, like, the way to describe it is a lot of these prospects are going to be ranked higher than where Judah Mintz was in 2022. That's the best way to put it. Sadiq White is the highest ranked one, but he's hovering around the 20s as a 5-star. But this is shaping up to be potentially a top 5 recruiting class in the country. And the last time that Syracuse basketball had back-to-back top 10 classes in the country, and in this case, I am saying top 5 for 2025, but the last time they had the top 10 was 3 years in a row from 2014 to 2016. And the last time Syracuse basketball had a top 5 class, you actually have to go check out 24/7 Sports for that one, because On3's recruiting is off after you get to like 2010 with them. But if you don't check out 24/7 Sports, the last time Syracuse basketball had a top 5 class was actually in 2010 with Fab Melo and CJ Fair leading the way in that class. High recruiting correlates to winning a lot of basketball games at the end of the day. And if you can stack multiple elite recruiting classes together, it will put this program back to where it needs to be. Once again, it's easy to say the results on the court. And I'm not saying, well, they can have a top 5 class and then go under 500 for the season or miss the tournament. But what I am trying to say is that I don't think making the tournament is necessarily going to put Syracuse back, like if they're a 10 seed and they make it and they lose early. And at the same time, we've seen it time and time again, tournament success is pretty random, right? It's pretty, I mean, who thought NC State was going to go to the Final Four? I mean, are you kidding me? There is so much revisionist history about NC State in their Final Four run. Nobody thought that that was ever going to happen. They made the Final Four as a complete Cinderella. So it does happen. And I'm trying to say that, yeah, I mean, if they can make the Elite Eight, that's great and all, but what if they, have a top 5 recruiting class or a 2 seed in the tournament and lose early just because, well, it happens and it's the tournament. All I am saying is that I think it's recruiting that puts Syracuse basketball back on the map, and you just have to hope that the tournament results will follow suit. So that is it for this week's Poll Friday episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. If you like this video, click that like button. And if you really liked it, subscribe to the channel, turn on those notifications so you know right away when I am dropping the next podcast. And a reminder, every Monday afternoon, I release the Poll Friday question for the week on Twitter, which is at @LO_Syracuse. You can check it out in the description below. And on the YouTube community page for Locked On Syracuse, you can find the question there too. And you will usually have over 3 days to submit your vote, leave a comment of your thoughts on the question. So thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. And everyone, take care.